Hi, folks. It's 9 past the dot. I guess we'll get started. Welcome to GitLab's 11.1 retrospective. I have the first agenda item, and I'll kick this off. So we'll start with the previous improvements from the last retrospective. I've had the task to assign a team to improve how we can validate migrations between deployments and post-deployments. So we have identified a smoke test suite, and the issue is linked there. There's still work in progress to link this into chat ops to be run as part of the release process going forward. On to one went well this month. I think James is not here. Alessio, can you take this over?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mac. Okay. As part of the release, I read the James line, which is still related to release. New automation tools such as publishing packages using chat ops are making release managers' life easier. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, really appreciate it. Then regarding the release itself, we had 14 release candidates this month, which is the highest number of release candidates so far. Then this gives us also something like daily deployment starting from the 2nd of the month. There is a link with the timeline for the deployment. So the next point, what went wrong this month? Tommy.
Thanks, Alessio. As noted here, we had several major items that slipped from the 11.1 release. So we had a mini sort of pre-retrospective to talk through what happened there and see if there were any trends that were worth calling out. The notes are available here in the agenda for that document. In brief summary, we did find that the deliverable label, which we use for scheduling priority, but also for driving our kickoff log for what's going to go into any given release, we found that label was applied to some items where we actually should have known in advance that we weren't going to be delivering the feature to customers. So we shouldn't use that label unless we know that we're delivering value in the current iteration. We also found that there were some scheduling issues on the engineering management side where conflicts such as release management duty, vacation were not accounted for in planning. So we need to be more careful about taking that into account. And I want to thank Sean, who's not on the call, but for adding some better clarity around that, particularly as it comes to release management in our handbook. And we had a large merge request page refactor that was done to bring that up to speed for Vue.js. And there was a lot of extra QA required for that crowded out other items. So we need to try to be careful to avoid large refactors and ship smaller iterative changes in the future. We do want to call out a couple of things that are common pitfalls once we try to approach this sort of predictability problem that we have here. We want to be very careful not to get too conservative and start under scheduling. In order to make our releases more predictive, because that will lead to us slowing down ultimately. So we need to keep pressure on shipping as much as we can. And we want to be careful also not to pause in-flight work that a developer's already started in order to reroute them to another issue. So we need to be careful to be flexible around that and make sure that we're keeping folks focused on what they've already started. With that, James Lopez is not here. Alessio, is this another item that you can cover?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Thanks.
James' line is about Git 03 server, which had a lot of troubles during the production deployment. It still is not fixed. So each production deployment was aborted. And then we had to continue manually skipping one step because of this machine. Then Felipe line about the security release process is still complex. And one of the reasons he is having multiple releases. This is something we need to do, but we should probably fall back and let previous release managers take care of their respective releases. Maureen, you had a note on this. Do you want to chime in?
Well, nothing more than I wrote there. Basically, we did that in the past. And what the problem that created, having previous release managers doing the task, is synchronization with the current release. So no one knew with whom to speak. And then also the previous release managers needed to organize themselves with the current release managers, and that ended up being a problem, let's say a problem. So I think, as always, answer here, automation, more of it. And we are going to get there. So far, we've been focused on getting the process in order. So we now have the critical security release also written out. And as we get the security release process tried and tested, basically, we'll recognize places where we can automate. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have that automation done. So we don't have to speak about these releases anymore, hopefully. Alessio, back to you.
Wonderful. Okay. 7 release candidates not deployed on production: RC1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The reason are explained in the links. So yeah, basically out of 13 release candidates, 6 didn't reach production. And we also had 3 rollback to release candidate number 4 during production deployment. There are some infrastructure links there. They caused partial outage mostly, but yeah, details are there. The problem here is that RC4 was tagged 3 days before feature freeze. And actually, we had no post-feature freeze release candidate deployment into production before the 12th, which, yeah, was really, really late. And last point, we failed to ship fixes for the merge request page refactor in 11.1.1 due to some pressure for the GCP migration. So we did 11.1.1 in time for the no longer this weekend GCP migration. And now we are working on a security release. So hopefully 11.1.3 will have the merge request page refactor fixes. Next point is Jarka.
I believe Jarka is not here. So I'll read it. Picking MR reviewers randomly or by expertise can lead to some people being overloaded. So there's a link there, which is bad for them and the person getting their MR reviewed. So basically, we felt some people feel some pressure on having too much to work on and review. So things tend to get piled up, and people have to wait too much for making changes on merge requests. So there's a how can improve point that I'll talk a little bit later, but there's an issue there about some points on this. So the next one, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you, Osvaldo. So I wanted to highlight, this has been mentioned before, but I wanted to highlight that when we launched the merge request refactor, we had a few issues that came up that were not covered by tests. And as we were adding tests to fixing those cases to cover more functionality, we then ran into performance issues that led to slow loading and like the browser lockup when rendering big merge requests. As mentioned, that has been fixed already, but it's not deployed yet. I'll mention that at the bottom. But the point is that none of this was especially the performance issues wasn't caught on the CI, or it could be potentially an improvement there. Then Max helped by creating this postmortem doc. If you want to read more about it, we have identified what went wrong and how it could. So there's more reading there, and there's a point down below on how we can improve that. And then Alessio already mentioned this, but I wanted to highlight as well that a lot of the fixes and regressions were hard to put into both RCs because they also failed to be merged into an RC. I think it was RC10 because of conflicts of stuff being picked that depended on each other. So we missed that, and then we missed the first patch release, which means that there's a lot of serious problems that have been fixed but haven't been deployed for over a week. And then we have a point there below as well to improve. So I guess we can go on to how can we improve. Who takes the first item?
I think I can take this one. It's on discussion team, the retrospective that we had separately. So consider having step 1 of big changes with factors be add a flag to turn this off. So I think basically the point is that we should always have the feature flag for features like the merge request refactor that we saw a little bit of problem when entering production. So I think it's an interesting point to always make sure to have feature flags for this kind of stuff. Rails 5 is a different case, but basically a feature flag as well. So the next point is mine as well. Consider allowing merge requests to go to a pool for review rather than assigning. So we thought a little bit about this, and we are thinking on having, instead of the person just assigning someone to review before the freeze, we try to make a pool of merge request reviewers that may be interested in make reviews. So things can go faster on the reviewing process. So we are not sure how exactly we are going to make this pool, but that's something that we are going to improve for the next release. And I think this point can be on me. We are still discussing about this. I think the next point is Andre. Back to you.
Thanks, Osvaldo, again. So again, this is referring to the points I mentioned before. So one of the ways that we could improve this confusion of expecting a deploy on a certain date, which also comes to managing expectations from clients when they're pinging us on merge requests and anything, it'd be great if we could improve documentation on this point in particular to increase awareness of the timelines for the patch releases and what's going in. Because in this particular point, we had one patch release that was exclusive for one topic, but it wasn't really clear. We basically pinging the release managers on Slack to realize what was up and when it was going to be out, and we didn't have much visibility. So improving documentation there so that we can prepare ourselves and also manage expectations would be great, as we're basically fixing regressions to get included in those release candidates and patch releases. Tim, you have the other item.
Yeah, as this is more of an organizational topic, but that we should fix our calendar appointments so that this is actually available and we have more than 28 people in the retrospective. As the retrospective appointment got lost somewhere during the day today, so I'm not sure if we simply put it also on a bigger calendar like the engineering rhythm calendar so that everyone is aware. So I will take a look that we pick this up.
Great. I think we reached the end. Are there any questions on the YouTube chat that we should answer? Can someone check, please? Okay. While we're doing that, so at the end of the retrospective, we always pick items that can be realistically improved within the next retrospective timeline, and we will pick a champion to deliver this. So I think the obvious one is the Git 03 errors that keeps interrupting deployment. So I think an issue has been created, but I think Alessio, since you brought this up, would you mind taking this up and driving it and making sure this is fixed by the next retrospective, next release?
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm aware it involves the infrastructure team, but I'm assigning you to follow this through and involving them. Thank you. And the next one, I think we may want to look at how to improve the security release process. So I think this is I think involves many people. Myron, I think we discussed around provisioning environments for patch releases. Do you think that's kind of doable by the time you come with the next retrospective? No?
No, absolutely not. But I think this is a process. Like and if we want to nominate this, we should probably nominate it after the summit, because I think the summit is going to throw a lot of curveballs at us this month. So I don't think this specific issue can be done with that in mind.
Got it. Okay, noted. Thank you. I know we are continuously improving the documents, so I think that's great. I don't think there's anything that we need to assign. The release review process is per team, so I don't think that should be called out for. I'm leaving it per team to decide this.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there is an item in there. If you check out how we can improve the first item, the see also link. I propose that that issue is the one, basically feature flags or something like feature flags. So figure out a way of impacting new features, shipping new features. So maybe that is a really interesting one for everyone to deliver by the next retro.
Right, I agree here. I think the issue is already created. So maybe Robert can pick this up and update the outcome of this by the next retrospective. I think
Yes.
we already have things going on. Okay, great. So let's do that as well.
I mean, he's not here. That's why I'm nominating him.
Okay. Would you like to take this up, or you want Robert to take this up?
No. Robert can take it, and I can help him out.
Will do. Thank you. Pool for review, timely deploys. I know that Sean has improved significantly the timelines and documents around the release process, so I don't think I'm going to assign anything here. And the calendar issue. So Tim, would you mind picking this up and making sure our calendar is fixed? Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that is it. Is there anything else anybody want to raise? Questions in the chat. Okay. One question, how long can I stay with the 10.8x version? I'm not ready to update to 11.x.x. It seems too complicated for me to update the production environment to be ready for 11. Okay, so I think we need to involve the support team and the customer success team on this. And I think Emily, is this a paid customer or is it a free customer? Do we know? Okay. So anybody on the call that can respond to this question?
I can answer this. So we have in our documentation a maintenance policy. You can read exactly what our policy is. Generally, we support all GitLab versions. So you can use the version you're using as long as you want. But it might be that if there's particular parts not working, or if you're wanting a particular version that you should update. Generally, we do recommend you to be on the latest stable version and preferably on the latest minor as well. So I would recommend try to upgrade as soon as possible, but there's no harm in staying in any particular version for any amount of time, any stretch of time. But yeah, if you got their problems, you might have to upgrade.
I do have to add that we backport only to 3 previous releases when it comes to security fixes.
Exactly.
Great, thank you. And also I want to add that for paid customers, you should have a dedicated account manager, and you can also dive into detail with them as well. Emily, is there anything else in the chat that we should address? Okay, great. I think that concludes our 11.1 retrospective. I'll see you guys next month. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.